All right. Thank you for joining us this Saturday morning. We really appreciate you guys. What a great Saturday morning. We got Shaq and Aram over 500,000. Finally, finally. Great job to all of you who hit the board last month and this month who strive to help us accomplish that goal with Shaq and Aram. That's exciting. All right. So today, myself, Donald, and Jam, we're going to talk about terrible term versus Primerica term. This is a big one for us. We always run into a lot of term policies. Term policies and group insurance is what we seem to run into the most in our community. Okay, so we wanted to talk about this because this is important. I remember when I first came into Primerica, we didn't break down the different quadrants. So when someone said they already had term, right, we were like, okay, they're good. That is not the case. So later on in our career in Primerica, we began to talk about the different types of term policies that are out there, right? And why Primerica term is better than the other term insurance companies, right? Which are the terrible terms. Any other term insurance company, any other life insurance company, that's terrible term. If it's not Primerica, it is terrible. Okay, so we're gonna go over that. We're gonna go over a USA term insurance policy as well, because USAA is very competitive when it comes to the premium amounts every month, right? And what I've noticed is that one of the things that people say with USAA is, well, my premium is less than Primerica, right? But it's still terrible terms. So we're gonna point out a few things in a USAA policy as well, all right? So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so there are 4 insurance situations. Shaq always talks about this, right? You have no insurance, you have group insurance, you have whole life insurance, and then you have term. This is important to know, okay? This is a part of your playbook when you're at the kitchen table, when you're at the qualified appointment. You have to know every situation and you have to know how to attack these situations, okay? So we're gonna talk about term insurance today. All right, term insurance versus, terrible term versus Primerica term. All right, so the terrible term, this is big, converts to cash value. We have that in our presentation. What we've seen in some of the policies at the end of that term, whatever term that they have, whether it be 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, it will convert to cash value or it'll give you an option to convert to cash value, right? Unaffordable renewal rates. This is a huge one because what we found is that with some of those premiums with most of those companies, yes, they may be a little less than Primerica term in the beginning. However, over time, right, they become unaffordable. So you have to know how to read that terrible term insurance policy to point that out, right? So first and foremost, you have to make sure that you have that policy. A lot of the times the clients don't send us the policy. So in order for us to have that home game that Shaq talks about, you have to make sure that the client sends you that policy. That's important so you can break that down. If healthy, you can reprove your health. All right. So what's the biggest issue with that? Right? As people get older, what happens? Their health deteriorates. I asked that at the appointment. I asked Mr. and Mrs. Client, what is the biggest issue with most people as they get older with their health? They'll tell you it deteriorates. Let them say it, right? Let them tell you that. That's a red flag because they never thought about that. And then term, how many years, right? We were training, mute your phones for me, please. We were training Ramon, and what we found is that one of Ramon's deacons that he goes to church with, he had an annual renewable term for 20 years, you all. He had no idea that there was a level term. Think about that. So every year for 20 years, his insurance was going up, like literally a staircase every single year, right? Annual renewable term. So that's important. It's important that you get that policy so you can break it down and then help your clients understand exactly what they have. That chart is important, all right? Annual renewable term, these are the different types of terms that are out there. Annual renewable term, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35-year term. Level, how many years, right? On the appointment, a lot of times when you say, do you have private insurance? They say yes. You say, is it whole life or term? They'll say term. Awesome. How many years is it? How long is the term? A lot of the times they say, I don't know. They have no idea how long the term is. That's important. And then the agent, that's important as well, right? Because a lot of the times, some people that we've sat down with, they know the agent. Recently, we sat down with the client training a trainee. The agent was a family member, right? And they were in a terrible term and they had no idea how that term insurance policy worked, right? So our presentation is set up perfectly because we ask, do you have any attachments to the agent or the company, right? So when they answer that, you know how to handle it. You never want to bash the agent or the company, right? You just want to point out that terrible term versus Primerica term. That's very important, you all, right? Because I know a long time ago when my people skills and my communication skills weren't where they are now, I've bashed a couple of agents and it's a family member and I've lost that sale. So don't do that, right? I know we Primerica gangsters, but we gotta tone it down, and we bring value, we're good, okay? So let's talk about Primerica term. Primerica term, best quality and service with a competitive premium. Best quality and service with a competitive premium. Remember, cost is only an issue in the absence of value. This is big. This is huge because people know, right? If they see value, they are willing to spend that bread. They're willing to spend it. So we have to make sure that we do our part, right? And provide value, education, and they will move forward, okay? What's attached to our term insurance policies? I don't know if you all send out the Primerica brochure or the email after you sit with your clients, but that's important because it talks about all the different riders that's attached to our term insurance, which is really big. We have the waiver of premium, we have terminal illness rider, we have the increasing benefit rider, freedom accumulation benefit, and then you as the agent. That's big. That is huge. That's where that quality comes in, okay? All right, so let's talk about waiver of premium. Waives after disability of 6 months. That's big, right? We'll refund any premiums paid during the 6-month period. Premiums continue to be waived as long as disability continues. That's huge, right? So that's one of the advantages of a Primerica policy. You got to make sure that you're talking about that, all right? Terminal illness rider. What is it? Available if diagnosed with terminal illness. So on this part, when we do the terrible term versus Primerica term, the second one is the terminal illness rider. I talk about this. I use a personal story with my mom, right? When my mom was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, we actually applied to get the terminal illness rider and it was approved. Think about that. We were going to use that to do holistic healing with my mom. Unfortunately, she passed away before we got that check. But think about that really fast. A lot of families cannot afford medical treatment. Health insurance does not cover everything. We learned that firsthand. So the fact that that terminal illness rider is there, right, that's a huge advantage. How much is available? 40% of face amount up to $250,000. This is the part you have to remember because we don't really talk about that in the presentation. And 70% of face amount up to $400,000 with waiver of premium, right? So we talk about the 70%, but we do not talk about the 40%. Okay. However, if you do send that Primerica term insurance brochure, right, it's broken down within that brochure. So that's important. That's how showing that quality, right? That customer service. How much does it cost to add this rider? It's included with all of our policies. That's big. So here's a nugget for you all. When you're running a quote on your clients, always check waiver of premium. Right? That's what I do. Okay. Always check waiver of premium because you know the premium is different if you don't check waiver of premium. So this is what I found. We talk about the riders, but if you don't check that waiver of premium, all of those riders don't apply. Right? So when you give that quote to your client, make sure you check the waiver of premium. Don't even tell them because we're already talking about the riders. Just check the waiver of premium. It's a benefit for our clients. Okay. Why beneficial? Sometimes illness is only terminal if you don't, I can't see the bottom of my screen. Hold on, y'all. If you don't have the money for treatment, that's big. That's the example I give about my mom. Think about that really fast. Okay. Right? A lot of families simply just can't afford medical.
Recommended.
Mute your phones for me, please. I can hear you guys talking. That's important. Okay. Because they simply just can't afford medical treatment. So the fact that that rider is there, that's motivating for that family because we don't know. I'll talk about myself, for example, right? Both my mom and my father had cancer. My dad had lung cancer and my mom had ovarian cancer. Now, by any means am I claiming to get cancer. However, knowing that that benefit is there, that's good, right? That's motivating, right? We denounce that in the name of the Lord, right? No cancer. However, knowing that that benefit is there, that's big. The fact that we were able to apply for that for my mom and get that check to help that, that's a big deal. All right. So that's important. Let's talk about the next one. You as the agent benefits, education, the client deals with us, not the company. A plan for what to do with the death benefit, principal preservation, plan to retire, be self-insured. All of these things are important because our biggest goal as a Primerica agent is to get them out of insurance. There is no other insurance company that does that, right? The foundation of any financial plan we know is life insurance. However, as their assets grow, as we grow their retirement, we want to get them out of insurance. However, if they want to keep that insurance until they die, that's fine, but we want to make sure that they are cash insured, right? We want to make sure that they have their retirement grown so they can get out of insurance. That's important. We just sat down with, I think it was one of our trainees this week. We sat down with the Primerica client who had been a Primerica client for 20 years. They had their life insurance intact and they also had their investments. That was exciting. He gave us about 10 referrals off of that because everything that we went over, he already knew, and he didn't tell us he was a Primerica agent until the end. We were proud about that, right? So that's huge. All right, so now I'm going to bring up Mr. Mason. Donald is going to go over the insurance quadrant really fast, okay? So this is important, okay, because you have to know how to go through the insurance quadrant, how to ask the questions, right? So you could provide that value so they can move forward with you. That is extremely important. This right here, this is when the game starts, right? Like I said before, previously in our Primerica career, we did not go over all the different types of insurance, the 4 ways to protect your income. So that's why this is important, right? When you provide that education, man, they open up, they're listening, right? They have, you see the bubbles, they're asking these questions in their head because they don't know. That was T&I. When Shaq came and sat down with us and he broke down term versus whole life, we had no idea because when we sat down with that Liberty Mutual agent, he didn't even go over insurance. He just put us in a policy and he did not educate us. So this is the game right here, right? And Shaq always says, right, if they have no insurance or group insurance, you can go ahead and get them to apply for insurance. That's an away game. But if they have a policy, right, and you provide that information, they want to know, well, shoot, what is it that I have? So that's the home game. This is where it starts right here. You're setting it up. You're lining it up to get that policy, okay? So Donald is going to go over that. Hold on one second. Let me pull it up. All right, D, you ready?
Yes.
Well, that's not the one. First, I got to learn how to pull up stuff. And then we're going to bring up Jimalee. Jimalee's going to talk about a client her and I got this past week with a trainee who actually had that USA a term insurance policy we were speaking about. We're also going to pull up that policy so you guys can see what we were talking about as far as how that term insurance works. So Donald and Jimalee, Donald, what were your numbers last month?
Well, we did collectively we did about 8,000 in premium.
Okay. And 4 personal recruits?
Yes. 6.
Right.
Well, 4 for me, yeah. 6 as a
2
team.
for Jimalee?
Yeah.
All right, great job, guys. All right. Okay, this is where we're gonna start. Okay, it's on you.
Okay, I don't see the slide. All I see is Shay Felton has started screen sharing.
All right, hold on 1 second. Technical difficulties. Don't you just love technology? Can you see it now?
No, I can't actually. Oh, there you go. All right. So this is the slide that you usually just read this off basically and say, so I'll be talking to you, right, Shay? Can you
Yes,
hear me?
just run it as if you're on an appointment and I'm the client.
Okay. So when we get to the slide, it's just basically reading this off. So Shay, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, how would you rate your desire to become properly protected, debt-free, and financially independent?
Well, about an 8 or 9.
8 or 9?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we usually, would expect people to be around that 10 mark. So let me ask you, Shay, if we were building a house together, what would we start with as far as if we were constructing it?
Foundation.
Foundation, exactly. So here we help build your financial house. And with your financial house, your foundation is your income protection with life insurance.
Okay.
Now, how important is income to a household?
It's very important.
Very important, right? So,
Absolutely.
so usually when we sit down with a responsible, parent such as yourself, out of these four major concerns, they usually have two top concerns. What would be your two top concerns out of this four?
Probably retirement and debt elimination.
In debt elimination. Okay, great. So first, let's start with your income protection, which is your foundation.
Okay.
So Shay, how much coverage do you currently have?
250,000.
250,000. Okay.
Yes.
And do you feel you're overinsured, underinsured, or not sure?
Um, I don't know. I'm really not sure.
Not sure? Okay. Well, for the sake of time, we're going to just go straight into term. Now, Shay, this is what the experts recommend. Have you heard of Dave Ramsey?
Yes, we do. We do the financial piece at my church. I've heard of Dave Ramsey.
Awesome. So, as you know, Dave Ramsey is a financial expert, and he says term life insurance, the only insurance he recommends, is the least expensive way to get the coverage your family needs and is more affordable than you think. Are you familiar with Susie Orman?
Yes, I watch her all the time. I have a couple of her books as well.
Awesome. So, as you know, she's another financial guru. And she also says most of us only need a life insurance policy for a set period of time until the toddlers are adults and supporting themselves, or until we have time to build up our own assets. But not all term is created equal. So you have industry term versus Primerica term, our term.
Okay.
Now, with the industry term, Shay, it converts to a cash value whole life insurance policy, which we just saw wasn't the best investment to go with. And then also it's unaffordable renewal rates, meaning when you want to renew your policy, the rates skyrocket where it could be unaffordable. And then you have to reprove your health. With our company, you wouldn't have to do that. We go on that primary health examination or health questions we asked you on the application. So if you wanted to renew it years down the line, even if God forbid something happened to you medically, you can actually not have to do a medical.
Okay.
And this is
Um,
how it,
so really fast, I just want to interrupt you really quick. So on that, if healthy, you can reprove your health. That's where I asked that question, you all. So, Mr. Mason, right? What happens to most people as they get older with that health, with their health?
usually deteriorates.
Absolutely. So can you see how that can be an issue?
Yes.
All right. And then I go into the term example. Ask them, right? Ask them because people don't know what that means. If healthy, you can reprove your health. They don't understand that. So ask them, right? So they can know and understand, okay, that could potentially be an issue at the end of that term. All right. So when we talk about the Primerica term and we have that guaranteed conversion, wow, boom, right there, you have a win. All right, let's go into the term insurance.
Now, Shay, this is a term from the industry. Are you familiar with a company called State Farm?
Yes, I heard of State Farm before.
Great, great. So this is how their term is actually contracted. As you can see, this is a policy for a 33-year-old man and a 32-year-old woman.
Mm-hmm.
They're paying $138.27
Mm-hmm.
a month for $1.5 million policy.
Okay.
So does that seem kind of fair price?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, I blow $138 in a week, so that's not bad for 1.5 million. That's not bad at
Right.
all.
But if you look at the description of coverage, it tells you right here that after the first 20 policy years, premiums increase significantly, and these premiums continue to increase annually. So this is how that looks, Shay. For the first 20 years, they're paying $1,660 a year. But after that 20th year, the premiums increase annually. So by the 30th year, they're paying $55,583 a year.
Wow.
Now, if we do the math on that and we divide that by 12 for each month, and I usually show them the amount, and the amount is $4,631 a month. Is that affordable?
No, absolutely not.
Right. So let me show you how our term works. So Shay, we have a guarantee conversion. You can actually convert this up into the age of 95. We also have a terminal illness rider up to 70%, meaning if God forbid anything were to happen to you terminally while having a policy with us and your medical insurance couldn't take care of your medical expenses, you can actually take 70% from your life insurance policy with us to get you proper medical treatment, possibly save your life. We also have an increase in benefit rider. We're rated A+ by the AM Best. We have affordable renewal rates, and we have a term duration up to 35 years. That's the longest term in the industry. We have one policy per family, and 93% of our claims are paid within 14 days. And this is when I go into the example of, we have personal experience on our team. Actually, the woman who trained me, her name is Shay Felton. Her mom was a field training appointment, and they sat down with her, and they thought she thought she had coverage. Turned out she didn't have any coverage. They were able to get her some coverage, but unfortunately, 3 months later, she got diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. 3 months after that, she passed away. And our company paid out that claim in 9 days. So this is why we have a passion for what we do, and this is why we want to get in front of as much families as possible.
That's important, you all. Sharing those stories and telling the track record of our company and our hierarchy is of the most important. Okay, I always tell people on our team, right, regardless if you become a client with us or not, after I tell you a story about my mom and my uncle who Primerica delivered claims to, right, after I tell you that, if you're still giving me pushback and fighting and giving me all these objections, I really don't want you as my client anyway. That's my mom, number one, and that's my uncle, right? So we have experience, hands-on, personally experience as the beneficiary and as the agent. My husband, T. Felton, was the agent for my mom. Think about that. We didn't have to do anything. And while he was going through it as well, right, he was the one in contact with home office. He was the one faxing over the paperwork, making sure everything was taken care of, making sure we had the everything that we needed in order for us to get that terminal illness rider. Now, I know I didn't. I couldn't even think straight. My mind was foggy. There was nothing I can do at that time. When someone passes away, and I say this when we say 14 days, right, claims are paid. 93% of claims are paid within 14 days. I say this, Mr. and Mrs. Client, what is the first thing that people think about, Mr. Mason, when someone passes away? What's the first thing they think about?
Money.
Money. So how important is it for that claim to be paid out immediately? How important is that?
Very important.
Absolutely. So 93% of our claims are paid within 14 days, right? And I don't share this, but I'll share it with you all. Primerica, when my mom passed away, Primerica took phone calls from the funeral home, right, and approved everything that went on, everything. And because of that, the funeral home did what they were supposed to do for my mom, right? They ended up shipping my mom's body back to California. That was $10,000, you all. $10,000 that Primerica approved before we even got the claim. Think about that. That is huge, because if they didn't, my mom would have had to sit at that morgue until whatever happens, right? And we know there are some insurance companies that don't pay out claims within 14 days. So imagine that family, right, that has to deal with that. Terrible term, you all. Terrible term. All right, so now I'll bring up Jimalee. Jimalee, go ahead and tell the story about, she's going to go through the whole process of how she got a recruit, how she prospected a recruit who became a trainee, went through the process, got an appointment, and how we retrieved this USAA policy. Go ahead, Jimalee.
Good morning, you guys. Okay, so can you guys hear me? Awesome. So I'm gonna tell you a little backstory on how I met this client. So back in April, I messaged a girl named Aaliyah on Facebook about the business opportunity. She called me back in July, said she was interested. I booked a one-on-one with her, right? I found out she had a son. So I presented to her from a client agent standpoint. She became a client and a recruit, right? I booked a work session with her. I got her list. That list led me to a guy named Daomi. Daomi lived in Hawaii. He was interested. I did the same thing, booked a work session, got his list. That list led me to Delvin. So Delvin was interested. I booked Delvin to Shaq's webinar and the orientation, booked a work session with him. We sent out the character, got his list. We sent out the character references, right? Now I've learned throughout my many mistakes that if you have a younger recruit, the first people you want to speak to is their parents. Why? Because that is their biggest influence, and also that's their support system. They can shut this whole operation down, okay? So we sent out the character references. His mom responded right away, so I called right away, right? And I set the appointment, and we booked the appointment August 31st in the evening. And a very nice lady. We went through the 4 ways of getting protected. And I found out she had group, she had term, and she had whole life. And she also had multiple policies on her kids. So actually she had about like 5 or 6, I believe, right? And she was paying in total I believe either $72 or $178, but she wanted more coverage and she wanted a lower cost, right? And Shay has taught our team, when it comes to carryback, we always want to put that on them training. We want to tell them, listen, this training has never seen a policy before, so this will be good for his or her training, for training purposes only, right? So after the KT, I called Shay right away. I said, Shay, this lady got like 5 or 6 policy on her kids. Shay was like, get the policy, we'll go over it. So it's one thing finding out they have a private policy, is another thing actually getting them to send you the policy, right? Within 24 to 48 hours. So because once they send you the policy, like Shay teaches us all the time, that's a home game right there, right? So I did the KT August 31st. She sent 3 of the policy September 1st. She sent the remainder September 4th. I sent it to Shay. I booked the carryback with her. We scheduled it for Labor Day, which was the 7th at 9 o'clock. So that Sunday night, me, Shay, and 2 of our new teammates, Ramon and Gabrielle, we went over the policy. We looked through it. We reviewed it. We were able to destroy it on Monday and help that client as well. So, and one of the things that I want to say, we're very grateful as a team to have coaches like T and Shay who want us to leverage them. You know, we're so grateful, and they have no problem. So it's very important that you leverage your upline. They want the best for you. They want to see you guys succeed. So that's how I got the policy.
Great job, Jam. There's so many nuggets in that, you all. So I'll talk about really fast a couple of mistakes that I've made, right? Not getting that policy. If you don't get the policy and you give all of this great information, it's not a home game. It's an away game, and the fans are throwing stuff at you. They're cursing you out. You have messed up the carryback. All right. So for the trainee, this is what I've learned. They move faster when you say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, this will be great for Delvin, right? He's never seen a policy before, especially from USAA. This will be helpful for him so he can know what's out there, He'll learn how to read the policy. So if you can get that policy to us before we meet back, 24 to 48 hours before we meet back on Tuesday, that will be phenomenal, right? You've got to put it off on your trainee. You don't want them to know that you're getting ready to destroy every part of that term, and that terrible term, of that whole life, of that whatever they have. You don't want them to know. Always put it back on the trainee, always, because they want, right, that trainee, whoever it is, they want to help them and they want to give them that information so they can move forward, so they can succeed in this new opportunity. So that's important. All right, so let's go through this really fast. So USAA, I don't know if you all have